Amazing day on this episode of the program Sports Preview on Bua Community Voice. I don't know why I'm putting up a smile when I'm talking about a sack or the sacking of people's father, uncles, brother, husband, and all. The big question is when you look at it is that Dyche been sacked by Nottingham Forest. In fact, it's no longer news. It's been a long also, and alongside Thomas Frank, who was relieved by Spurs of his duties at Tottenham Hotspur. So on this particular episode, what we'll just spare time for is to look at these two coaches and just narrow it down to know if they deserve to be sacked. Is it deserving? Because for a team like Nottingham Forest, they've been able to use three managers in the course of one season. And we know how difficult that could be financially and for the players who will be learning new tactics every other AK market day. So you look at all of that, and I think on this episode, it took me right to talk to Bonfrey alongside Chiwendo to know if they feel that Dyche and Thomas Frank deserve to be sacked, or if they had deserved to be given just a lot more time to see what they can do with these two different teams. So on this episode, we look at Dyche and Thomas Frank. My name is Oji of NW. I'll be doing this with Bonfrey Joe and of course Chiwendo. They'll be aiding me with superb analysis about these particular topics that we'll be looking at. Joining me to look at all of this is my man Bonfrey Joe. Bonfrey Joe, let me do an expose. Bonfrey Joe's dad lived and died as a football coach. Yes, a football coach in this country, Nigeria. And I've always asked him if he would love to take the part of his dad. His answers been neither here nor there. But when any time your dad was sacked as a coach, have you ever seen him lose his job or his reaction when games are not going?
I'm not sure I've seen him, but at least while he was with BCC Lions of Boko, before eventually it seems the revolution of football in Nigeria, BCC Lions ceased to.
Went into extinction.
Yes, that's what all I know about his football.
About his football career. Of course, BCC Lions of Boko. I feel like that's how things must have metamorphosed into the Navy Stars of today and all of that. Because we also know when in Rivers there was Sharks and there was Dolphins.
Yeah.
I think Sharks and Dolphins was merged together by the then governor to get Rivers United, because there was a time where it's going to be difficult for a particular state to run two teams and
it was more of like a private owned club. So and it was becoming an issue. We couldn't pay players, so eventually the governor had to take it upon himself to merge them together.
Dolphins and of course Sharks of Port Harcourt, and of course Rivers United doing very well. Although Finidi had them knocked out of the group stages of the CAF Champions League. For all of that, I have also with me Chiwendo. Chiwendo, good to have you. Yes, let's get to where we are. I had to do that background check of Bonfrey's dad, because we're talking about a coach and we know what coaches go through. But I know back in the years, Bonfrey didn't spend a lot of time with him, so things are just here and not there. But let's look at Dyche. He was nominated for the January Manager of the Month award just 7 days ago before the sack, and he did not expect to be out of his job two games later. Defeat by Leeds United and a goalless draw in Wednesday's meeting with bottom side Wolves prompted Nottingham Forest owner Evangelos Marinakis to call time on Dyche's 4-month tenure as the head coach. One of the things that we must always look at when we talk about coaches is the caliber of games. For example, if Erichel is beaten by a lowly rated team in Africa, his job might be at stake. But I feel like if Chelsea is beaten by Brazil, say Spain, say Argentina, you could say, yeah, it's one of those games that even the best of the best coaches of the world will struggle to execute. And I feel like the straw that broke the camel's back for Dyche was not getting that with 35 chances in that encounter with Wolves, and they couldn't get that goal to win that game. And I felt like for someone like Marinakis who comes to watch his games would have been very disappointed. And sometimes you start feeling, is he still in control of the dressing room? I know the player power, and that's some of the questions that needs answers every time a coach is not doing well. But let me get your side of of the story. Do you think it was deserving to let him go with the way things were at first?
I don't think it was deserving because if you look at what Sean Dyche's record, not a bad one. I mean, they met Nottingham Forest in a very troubling state. Postecoglou actually left them in a troubling state. In fact, I would say that the problem started from when you allow a man like Esperanto Santos, who was building a very formidable team. Last season, Nottingham Forest were a pin in a lot of players, in a lot of teams. Like even Liverpool, they beat them home and away last season. And so, a man like that, you have a disagreement with the coach, and then the next thing you let him go, a man that has built a team to that level. And then you brought in a Postecoglou who was neither there nor here, trying to get himself fit, get himself back from what happened with Tottenham Hotspur. And then you didn't even allow him to settle on the job. You sacked him. Brought in Sean Dyche, I was saying, okay, let's see what he will do. I mean, this is Sean Dyche that held a leader of the group. We're talking about the league leader, Arsenal. He draw them. And this is the same Sean Dyche that also beats Liverpool at Anfield. No, you can't let him go. He was building a team. You don't expect a Wolves team to succumb just like that because they are a bottom. You don't know this relegation team. They are the one that go to beat Chelsea, go to beat Arsenal. We have seen it happening over and over again. We don't look down on them because they are in the relegation water. You feel like this is a wolf, anybody can beat them. No. Game formation always changes, and especially this relegation team, they always, especially when they feel like this is like for life, they always try to get a point in a game, and I think that's what happens to Wolves. You could see that their game changed. Well, and I mean, it's not even because of Nottingham Forest. Prior to that game, you could see that Wolves, they are trying to build a team, they're trying to get a point, and then they played against Nottingham Forest, and because of that, you look at it and said, Sean Dyche, you should go. That was a very, very wrong thing to do. It's not deserving. I feel the man is building and it's a gradual place. How many players did you give him to use? He's trying to use what he has. A
lot of attacking options, according to the team.
Who is the attacking option? Only he said the people that are the attacking option. This is the same thing. Okay, we'll get to that point. But all I will say is that it was not deserving for him to have let Sean Dyche go because the man was building a team. And I feel like this was a man that had something to offer to the club. I mean, as a analyst, he always say, I think he could do this. He could do. So I was expecting him to flop, but he surprised me going into Nottingham Forest and bringing them to this level. Should have allowed them. Consistency matters, and it's going to affect them. I would not be surprised Nottingham Forest will be going on relegation.
Okay, not surprised if they get relegated. But the nomination for the Manager of the Month for January came on the back of a league win over Brentford and struggling West Ham United, a defeat by third place Aston Villa and a point at home to the leaders Arsenal. Well, I wonder, after the draw at Wolves, Marinakis automatically forgot there was a draw in a game against Arsenal just last month. And so, but I feel like one of the most disappointing results to Marinakis because of his team had been involved continentally is the fact that they threw in an FA Cup exit on penalties at the hands of Championship side Wrexham. You don't want to be losing to Wrexham in an FA Cup. They're one of the only trophies that you might be challenging for. A Europa League defeat by Sporting Braga, followed by a chopping win over Ferencváros to secure a knockout phase playoff. And I think Forest are looking at a manager that can get them across that knockout phase, and it feels like Sean Dyche is not the man. And the big problem is, who would the man be? You know, in a league table based on 18 matches since Dyche took charge on 21st of October, they sit 12th. The Englishman departs the City ground, having won 6 of those games, collecting more league points, 22, in the same number of games than Forest's 2 previous managers combined. Combined, the two of them, so Dyche have done well. I don't know what happened. Probably they might have had a discussion that we don't know about. Let's
I
get to your
think
take.
for the owner of the club was expecting more than he was supposed to expect from Shondai. But for me, Shondai is a very good manager. The tactics is there for him. He plays it. His game is a kind of defensive, more of defensive game. Playing against Liverpool, I never saw them winning Liverpool. But what I saw after that 3 goals win against Liverpool was one of the best games they've played. Against Arsenal, they got a draw. So why get a manager that is doing well out of the game? And one thing, this is going to affect them in Europe, because to get a manager that will fit in immediately, it will take time. When they had Espirito Santo, he was doing perfectly well. Maybe along the line he had some issues with him. But one thing about English old club now is that I noticed something, that the managers are not yet, they are not the managers anymore. They don't manage that team. They just coach them. So the managerial team is being done by a group of people else there, not him. So you can wake up any day and tell you, oh, you've not done well. You can leave. So for me, I think the owner of the club, maybe he was watching with emotions, that how can we lose? I'll get out of the one thing about, just like you said, the FA Cup was something that tagged this sack.
And the fact that there was lack of goals in that team. I think sometimes also defensive that he found it difficult to score.
See, they had a good striker who is presently on injury.
Yeah, Chris
Wood. If Chris Wood was here, I believe this will not be happening.
Because he's not played a single
He's not playing
Dyche because of the knee injury picked up in their under Ange.
So since then he has been on the sideline waiting for his time.
And only Wolves have scored fewer than Forest. 25 goals in the league. And that shows, if you're not scoring goals, you're not winning games.
They're not winning games.
And we must also point out that Dyche is leaving the club at 17th, one place higher than he found them. 3 league wins at home, and the last of which was on the 14th of December. So statistically, maybe Marinakis is thinking about someone who can better these results. And the big question is about who?
Who is the coach in present that's going to do the job now?
Because there are no coaches. This kind of coach you are looking for is no longer in the market. Is it Pep? Can you pay him? Is it? Are you going to go and get a Mourinho? Are you going to go and get maybe Xavi in Leicester? Maybe they have Xavi Hernandez. We have Frank Lampard. We have Alonso. Alonso is not going to market.
So maybe they go for them.
If I'm offered that job on any amount, I'm not taking it.
Because it will still be
a job that Espirito Santo struggled in.
Maybe Thomas Frank, they can,
swap deal.
They swap deal.
Sometimes to Spurs and
but it will still not work.
Quick one, let's look at Tottenham. Offside head coach Thomas Frank, after less than 8 months in charge, sportsman put Frank and chanted for his sack in June Tuesday 2-1 defeat to Newcastle. They scored first in that game. I was watching. And Newcastle came out top. Spurs are 16th in the Premier League table, 5 points above the drop zone, and have won just twice in their last 17 games. That's horrible. That's terrifying. That is so disappointing. But why did they sack Postecoglou?
I want to sit here and just imagine that I'm Ange Postecoglou and smile.
Because with his smile, he was sacked also at
no, because
at Forest.
I think that taking Forest job was out of desperation. He wanted to prove a point, but it came back to hurt him because Tottenham Forest was not a team that he could have managed. Because you will know, he always said he has that 2-year syndrome. I will win a title, give him 1 year to build, and then 1 year to get the trophy, to get the titles, and that's what he did with Tottenham Hotspur. So I felt like after winning the Europa, I felt like he had a team. Just give him money to get players, just like they gave Thomas Frank. If Ange Postecoglou had this kind of players, this support that they gave to Thomas Frank, I think they would have strived in the Premier League.
Don't you think there's a problem at Spurs? I always say, think Conte, think Mourinho, take Pochettino and all of the managers that
The best of all the managers that have managed them.
and
This is the same problem, just like Chris said, that this same problem of they don't want a manager, they want a coach. And most of these are, you can't tell a Mourinho that, you can't tell a Conte that. These are people that have built their CV. They know what it means to be a coach. You can't tell a Pep Guardiola, I want you to be a head coach. You can't try it with him. These are people, they have pedigree when it comes to coaching. And when you start to tell Mourinho that I want this player, you're telling Mourinho, no, not this player, just why not go for this player? You're giving him option. He doesn't want to take that. That's the kind of person he is. And so he started having issues with the hierarchy. He talked to them the way he wants to be. He felt like to talk to them because he has the pedigree. Now, you can't tell Thomas Frank, where is Thomas Frank coming from? You want to tell Thomas Frank to go and be talking to the hierarchy of Tottenham Hotspur. You can't do that. Whatever they tell you. And that is what is the problem. Jurgen Klopp built Liverpool to a stage, and he saw that this is the stage they are going into, head coach. They don't want a manager. They want somebody that will be the head coach. And he quietly exited the scene. That's why most times when they call for Arne Slot's sack, I always say, the man is not in charge. He's just the head coach of the team. There's people that are doing the buying. His own is, do you think this player will work? Yeah. I don't think he has really said, this is who I want, this is who I want, this is who I want. These managers, they go in to look for players that they feel can fit into Liverpool system. Bring the player and tell you, your coach, go and coach. That's what they are doing these days. And that is one of the things, even Enzo Maresca could not even take it, because to an extent, it felt like I've built my own CV myself. You don't come and be treating me like I am a nobody. Because when he came in, he just saw players that they bought. But he came in and he wanted to infuse his own kind of play. But those things were not coming in. So I felt like if they have given Postecoglou this same opportunity they gave to, or this leverage they gave to Thomas Frank, he would have built a team. He was building something. There was something he was building. They didn't see it. They brought in Thomas Frank, and then what's the Thomas Frank doing? He cannot even cope, because that is not his. He has not gotten to that point yet. That shoe was too big for him to fit.
Yeah, very well. Before you go, Bonfrey, do you think that drinking a coffee from the Arsenal cup was one of the things that contributed to his sack?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because he wasn't getting the results. The result was terrible. He wasn't favoring. He wasn't doing what if you look at it, what's the difference between him and Postecoglou? There's a difference. Postecoglou won a trophy. We cannot even say that.
He's doing well in this thing now.
In the Champions League.
He's doing well in Champions League.
Maybe
because for me, I think a coach that is doing well, that was what Postecoglou did well in Europa. In Europa. That was why he was kept.
What if they win the Champions League?
That is the thing.
If you win, when you win, you still come back now.
Come back where?
As a Champions League winner.
When you get relegated, you come back.
You're not understanding.
You play the championship to come back.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Do you know what to think?
We have never seen that. We have never seen that.
That's why we're not even saying sports are going to win the Champions League. You know how
of course.
almost impossible it is.
But it's possible.
Yeah,
nothing is possible in football.
Nothing is
impossible.
Yes.
In football. Yes.
Almost impossible with the caliber of teams.
But Thomas Frank, while he was at the Beats, yes, Brentford, he was doing perfectly well.
Yeah, sometimes.
What I thought why Tottenham picked him to coach them was that why at Brentford he had a limited resources and he was able to manage that to get results.
It's that is working. Sometimes what works is the ability of players who are not yet well established to do the extra mile. It's not always the manager.
Sometimes the players they want to prove themselves.
Exactly.
Just like I always say, Xabi Alonso leaving Bayern Leverkusen was the worst mistake he made in his career, in his coaching career. Because you saw players that were willing to give their all. They wanted to make a name for themselves, not just for you as a coach. And you felt like, oh, it is done. At the time, the moment he left, you see the players are scattered.
So, are you of the view that it's deserving to let Thomas Frank go for sports?
I think yes, he wasn't fitting. That shoe was too big for him to fit in. That was even though Postecoglou has come out to say that sports is not a big club, but there is no way you will say top 5 big club in England. So part of the big boys.
So if you look at at everything now at the club, you know, who do you think should take that job? But first, before you go about who should take the job, do you think he's deserving to let him go?
For me, it is deserving because Tottenham is aiming to get as in they shouldn't be in the position they are in the Premier League. They shouldn't be in that position right now. That is almost down to the relegation dead zone.
You begin to wonder if anybody can save them because I feel like the sack of Thomas Frank could further endanger their survival.
I think the only man now, you asked who you feel, I think the only person who because if you're bringing a new coach that have understanding, know the background, know the history, know where they were until they get to where this scores that we're talking about, I think that man is only Mauricio Pochettino because he knows the history of Tottenham Hotspur. It was like he came when they were nothing and raised them to a particular level. Even with the menial kind of players he had. I mean, who knew Harry Kane could be this big one day? But Pochettino believed in Harry Kane, gave him that platform, and then he became a well-recognized striker. Even though Paris Saint-Germain, the coach, Harry Kane. And so even though, I mean, Pochettino is the coach of USA now, and his priority is to lead them to the World Cup. It's going to be a problem. But I feel like if they can have that they can have a temporary coach, an interim manager to take over. I will not give it to Oliver Glasner. They need somebody that is formidable, somebody they can really trust. And at this point in time, Pochettino is not doing well with USA because you could see that this man is not a national team material. Just like Mourinho. This is the reason why Mourinho will not want to go to national team because Mourinho does not have the patience to raise players. He wants to go, hey, I like what you're doing, you good come, ready-made. Either you like it or not, yes, you may not see those ready-made players, but he gives them the platform. But these players are hard-working players, wherever they are, though they are not seen. He goes there and scout out them and say, come, and give them a platform, and then they prove themselves. That is the kind of person Mourinho is. Same thing with Pep Guardiola. So that's one of the reasons why Mourinho will not want to go to the national team. Maybe when he's in his 80s, 85, about to retire, just okay, let me go and coach Portugal, and as my retirement benefit, whatever that happens, it's none of my business. Let me just go once and come back. So somebody like Pochettino, you could see that he's not a national team material because look at what's happening to him with him and USA. So I feel like he just want to go to the World Cup, have that name that I was once a manager that have taken a team to the World Cup. And then come back.
And just like you say, in football, you never can tell.
You never can tell.
I can't tell. Who will believe that Roberto Di Matteo will win the Champions League with Chelsea before Mourinho? And Mourinho never did. Never did.
With Chelsea.
Yes, with Chelsea.
But he won Champions League.
I mean,
he will always look at it and say, I've won the Champions League.
Yeah, but
he has won the Champions League.
But not with the Chelsea team that he managed for a very long time.
Nearly a decade. First coming, second coming. And don't forget that he won the Champions League at Porto. Part of the reason why he was brought to Chelsea. Yeah. And a couple of persons still believe that if he was not sacked for Di Matteo, he would have just won the Champions League.
Because
he gave them the platform. But remember one thing, a coach may be the coach, but the players may want to frustrate that coach. So I think Di Matteo came. They had this, okay, let's just go, let's do it for him.
I felt like even Di Matteo being the coach at Chelsea at the time, it was John Terry, Frank Lampard, and the rest of the big boys in the dressing room.
Just the same thing that is happening to Manchester United now. These big boys, they just feel themselves, let's do it for Makekari. And I think, I'm not saying, but I think Makekari will eventually flop when they give him the
when they give him the job, you start playing, I'm down the coach.
And things can spoil for them. But we also saw what happened on Thursday night with Arsenal. It's now down to 4 points. Yeah. We are down.
Notwithstanding.
Manchester City is close.
Breathing on their neck now.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
their next game is against Chelsea.
Yeah, we'll talk about. We'll talk about.
But let's finish the
yes, the Thomas Frank and Dyche issue. This is a point to wrap it all up on this one. It's deserving to sack Thomas Frank according to born free and Children, but they do not think that Sean Dyche should have been let go. Children especially feels like he would have been given some more time. In fact, compared to two managers who were prior before him, they didn't do much like he's done. But then Marinakis is the boss, the Greek boss, and he knows what's right. So we'll see what happens from there on in. Thank you very much, guys, for being a part of this one. It's always amazing. And thank you for to Elisa, who was everyone behind the camera. And we urge you all to like, subscribe, and share what we do here at Welcome Sports. Don't forget that the program is proudly sponsored by our friends at MaxBet. It's www.maxbet.ng to be a part of something good happening there. Adios.